everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Shields Live. Beautiful day out there. We're starting to get in the fall, so happy about that. I've been a little absent lately, filling in at the other store, doing some schools, but I'm finally getting a little caught up. So I'm happy to be back here and see you guys. And I think Jan's going to do some scan and cut stuff today, so that should be exciting. We've had a few people asking about that. I know she's been doing a lot of different things with it, with card making, things like that. So just something different. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. And I'll turn it over to Jan, and I'll come see you afterwards. And, I'm sure I'll have something to talk about. So anyway, great to see everybody.
Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. So let's see here. We always say happy Tuesday or happy Sunday, on Sunday for So Long with Jan. So hi, everybody. Oh, good. I actually can see everybody coming in. Hello. Okay, just a second here. I got to get things ordered. Okay, so we're going to have some fun with the scan and cut today. We did a little class with the scan and cut quite a while ago. I want to say maybe January or February, that we just kind of touched on the scanning and the scan to cut data and all of these scanning functions of the machine. So I wanted to make it a little bit more clear why you would use it, how you use it. We're going to do that a little bit more completely today. And because I've been using my scan and cut a lot lately, because I've been learning to make cards and do some stamping. And I've also been playing with some fabric in it. But a lot of the things that I've been stamping and I'll just hold up a couple things here. This is like a stamp. And then what I can do then is I can cut out my stamps. And, this has been colored with like colored pencils. This one has two. This is another one of those. It's a peony. My mom loved peonies. So I got this peony die and I thought it was really pretty. It makes me think of my mother. And then I did this one for the little picture, this little flower, and this was a stamp. And so I stamped it with the black ink, and then I colored it with colored pencils. But what a lot of stampers want to do is to cut out their pieces like this so that you can put them on the cards all cut out. Well, a lot of the companies actually sell dies, little metal dies for every single little stamp. And then you got to pay extra for all of those to go around the little stamps. So like here's some, I was going to show you these so you can kind of have an idea where I was going with this. This little stamp set that I have here was a little Halloween stamp set. It's really cute. And see, it has all these little, like little spider webs and witches hats and little, ghosts and stuff on it. Okay. Well, that one is, I stamped some of these out on pieces of cardstock, but then this one had the little dice sets with it. I just happened to have them. I normally don't buy them because I have a scan and cut and I can cut these all out. So like, here's the little die. And so you got to pay extra for these. And then you have to put it around the paper, around your little image. And then you have to run it through a die cutting machine. Well, so I thought I wanted to show you, like, here's some of the other dies. So like I had to pay, these came with a kit, so I got them, but I don't have a lot of dies because I have my scan and cut, and I can do the same thing with my scan and cut. And of course I can cut out fabric that way, and I can cut out we're going to do two kinds of scanning. We're going to scan to cut data, which means that you're going to scan something in and then cut it out of something else. And then we're going to use the direct cut feature, which would be like, I would put this little piece of paper that I colored and stamped in, and then I would cut this out directly on this piece of paper. So we're going to try a couple of different ones and get a little more involved in it so you understand how you'd use them. And for those of you who do some stamping and stuff like I do, then you wouldn't have to spend all the extra money. You could get more stamps and not have to buy all the little dies. So these are those little dies that went with this one. So, okay. So that's kind of where I was going with this. I just wanted to show everybody. And then of course I cut fabric with it. So we're going to use the direct cut or the scan to cut data feature with fabric also. Okay. So I'm going to switch the camera over here. And give me a second here. And I'll turn off the banner. Always got to do that before I switch the camera, otherwise I forget. So let's do the camera. And let me get my phone. Okay, so hopefully you can all hear me yet. Okay, so here are some of the little things that I've cut out. Okay, so here's my little flowers. But what I want us to start with today, so I'm going to lay these over here and we'll do these in a minute. So I got a whole bunch of little things. We're just going to cut out some stuff. Okay. Let's see. I had more. Here we go. Here's some more things we can cut out. Okay. So when I showed you this earlier, I showed you that you could, let me get back to my comments here. Okay. I showed you that you could put, like I printed these off on a piece of paper. Okay, so let's show you the basic scanning feature. And these are printed. These are just printed on paper, no stamping or anything like that. So not everybody stamps, but I do know a lot of you. I have a lot of friends that do. So I wanted to show everybody how they could use this feature on their Scan and Cut. And it would, in my case, it saves me a lot of money because I don't have to buy the die stuff. Okay, so let me get my mat open here. I'm going to use, this is a low tack mat, but I restuck it, so it's more like a standard tack mat. I usually use a standard tack mat for most anything. So I'm just going to feed this in. Make sure my Scan and Cut's set up here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this piece of paper on here. So what I'm going to do, we're going to talk about direct cut first. Now, direct cut means that I'm going to cut these Mickey Mouses out of this piece of paper. So I'm going to go ahead, my favorite little tool. If you don't have one of these, buy yourself a little brayer tool. We got them on the website. These are awesome because then your paper stays on better. Okay. All right. So there's Mickey. Now these are printed. Again, I just put these in. I have found a little picture on the internet and I just printed them on a piece of paper. So what I'm going to do with this is I want to do direct cut. So let's just do a simple one first, and then we'll talk about some of the stamped images. Oops, second here. I got to find my, where did it end up? I'm always losing my, oh, here it is. I'm always losing my stylus. Okay, so we're going to be scanning today. So I'm going to hit the scanning button and it gives you all these different options. Okay, so there's all these different options. We're going to talk about two of them today. We're going to talk about direct cut and scan to cut data. Okay, so direct cut means that I'm going to scan what's on my piece of paper and I'm going to cut it out of this piece of paper. Okay, and I'm going to select a device to convert the scanned image. So in this case, I'm going to let the machine trace it. We can also send it back to the software, and you can trace in the Canvas workspace software, okay? But we're going to let the machine do it. The machine actually does an excellent job of tracing, and I often trace in the machine, and then I maybe send it to my software for tweaking, because the tracing in the machine is very good, and it's almost better than on in the program. So I like to use the tracing in the machine. So we're going to touch that one first. And then this little button here allows me to choose between the color mode. Now this is in color mode right now. Or if I click the little wrench button next to it, we can also be in black and white mode. So if your item is just like two colors, black and white, I would choose the black and white mode. Now this is more of a color thing, although there's a black outline all the way around the outside edge. Let's try it in the color mode and see what happens. Sometimes I switch back and forth and I'll get better results with one mode or the other with colored items. So let's see how the color mode does with this one. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to click Start, and it's going to scan what's on my mat. So I'm just going to pull this back. When this little thing comes up, the scanner lever is set to 2, refer to scanner lever, and then press Start. Okay, so the scanner lever makes it's how much height you have for scanning, and I usually just leave mine on 2 because it's higher. So mine's up on 2 right now, and I'm just going to leave it at start. I'm going to start. So this is going to scan in. So there goes my little Mickeys into the machine. And it's going to scan them up onto the screen. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, so there's my little Mickeys. All right, so they're all up here on my screen. Now, once you get to this screen, I just really want to cut out one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and crop out all of them but one. So I'm just going to take my little cropping thing, my little cropping box, and I'm going to crop it down to just this one over here. And I'm going to click OK. And it has to think for a minute. And it's going to put around, and I don't know if you can see it too well on the screen. I wish I could get just a little closer. It's very hard with the scan and cut because of the screen. So, but there is a little black line around the edge of this Mickey Mouse because that's the one I chose. So if I zoom in a little bit, you might be able to see it. Let's go into 400% and let's see if we can, so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so there's a nice line around Mickey, and it looks like it did quite a good job of tracing that. So I think I'm good with what it did here. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. I think I'm happy with that, and I'm just going to cut out the one. Now these little buttons here are this button here allows for color. You can eliminate colors, and there's times when things are like so colorful that you need to do that, and or you need to like one part of it you don't want. I don't use this setting very often. I just leave it alone most of the time. In the black and white mode, which we will use in a little bit, it has a different setting here. Okay, and then this ignore object size, what that means is sometimes you'll get a little bump or something around the edge, or you might get a little second line on something that it's scanned, and this will allow me to take away some of those small details. And so I can put this up so that like this little bit over here, it'll ignore it. Okay, so I can change the setting. I don't use it very often, but I sometimes have to. And then this one though, I do use. This one down here is smoothing. So right now the smoothing is on low, and I kind of stick it up on medium because what it does is it makes the, see, where's my little piece here? This one I forgot to change it, and I don't know if you can see this in the picture, but I wanted these to be a little smoother, and they're a little jiggity jaggedy on the edges. So if I would have smoothed this, it would have been a little bit cleaner on the edges. Okay, so I often do the smoothing, especially on some of these stamps that I'm using, because it makes everything very, very stark. The edges very stark instead of subtle. And normally these little dies, you know, that you get from the companies for theirs are kind of subtle on the edges. So you can see nothing, everything's very subtle and not too straight edged or very angular. Okay, so I like to have them be a little bit more smooth. So that's what I use this little smoothing thing for. So the other settings I very rarely touch. Most of the time I just use the default, but I do use the smoothing feature. And I've even put it all the way up to high. So depending on the item that I'm doing, if I think everything looks like it has very pointed edges and stuff, I like to go to even to high. So this one I do use quite a bit. Jan, it seems like the smoothing feature, I want to say, if you haven't updated your machine, it's been there a while, but you might want to make sure your machine is up to date. And I think it's 1.6 something. We'll check it when we get done here. So, okay, so I'm going to leave it on middle. I think that'll be good. We're going to preview it. And again, if I want to look at it a little closer, I can zoom in to 400%, which is really nice because then you can actually see the screen is very small. And that looks nice, see, because this is quite a smooth area, okay? And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna be happy with that, I think. And I'm gonna click OK.
So like I said, these two here, I don't use too often. I normally leave those at the defaults. All right, so I'm going to click OK one more time. And then on this particular one, now when I cut out stamps, I usually want them to be just a little bit of white around the edge. So like when I put this little die on here, it's going to cut out and there's going to be just a very small ridge of white around the edge. As you can see, I did the same thing here. So there's just a small edge of white. Okay, here's another one that I did. So there's just a little small edge of white. And so I usually use the smallest. So when it defaults, it goes right up against whatever it has traced. But in this case, I would like it to be just a smidgen. Which ScanNCut am I using? This ScanNCut is the SDX 230D. The new one is the 330D or the 325. So there's the 300 series are the only ones we can get now. I just happen to still have a 230D here, which is the older model. The only difference between the new ones and the old ones, this one doesn't talk to the Luminaire. But this one, it has all the other functions. So that's just what I happen to have on the floor here. All right, so I am going to tell it I want it to be, so there's two ways we can do this. This little button here will allow me to move the outline distance away from the edge of my design. And I would like it to be just a little bit further away. I'm just going to hit this button one time and I want just a little teeny bit of a white ridge. Okay. So I'm going to click OK. I'm just going to leave it at 0.04. That seems to be where I normally leave it. And or if we wanted to, we might have wanted to maybe cut this out with a shape. So I can also, so that it defaults at going around the object, but I could also cut it out with any of these shapes, see? So like, you know, little squares with the little like zigzags around it, or octagons, or any of those. So there's other shapes that you can use if you don't want it to be exactly around your shape. So that's what the other button is here, is shapes. This one is going to actually give you the outline directly around the image. Okay, and then if you need to edit it, you know, if you need to do some stuff here, like if we wanted to color it in or something, we could do that, and that's in the edit mode. But in this case, I just wanted to cut around this one Mickey. Okay, so we're going to hit OK, and it's going to think. Now, the one thing about Direct Cut that I figured out this weekend that I didn't even think about, you notice that it did not ask me to save this. So I can't save this design. This design is only for this piece of paper that I have on my mat. So they don't give you a saving function, just so you know. But there's a way we can get around it, and I'm going to show you that too. Okay, so we're going to hit please select, and I want to cut this. Okay, and I've got my little Mickey here, and I did not move anything. My mat's still down here, and see here he is. He's going to cut this one out right here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this down this way. And I'm just going to hit start. I'm pretty sure everything's going to cut okay because I've cut cardstock with this. So got my auto blade in. So everything pretty much cuts fine. But I wanted to show you some of the stamp. I did some stamping this weekend so I could cut out some of my stamps. So you could see what those are like. All right, so here's Mickey. Again, this one was printed. So I'm just going to pull this off. Pull a little harder. There we go. All right, so there, see, they cut out just the one. Put this down here on my way. And here's our little Mickey. So you can see that you can cut these out, like if you want to just print things off and put them onto different things or use them on cards or scrapbooks, pages. There's the little Mickey Mouse. And we can also do this with fabric. So I'm going to show you the fabric in a minute. But there's our little Mickey, and that is done with the direct cut function. Okay, isn't he cute? So that's a printed version. So let's look at a stamped version, because I know a bunch of you are stampers. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit the little home button up here. I'm going to go back to the beginning. So let's hit the little house button. And let's look at some of these little stamped images. Let's see. I've been wanting to cut this one out, so maybe we'll cut this one out. So I've got this pretty this pretty geranium that this is a stamp. Okay. And then I colored this with pencils, colored pencils. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, because I'd like to put this on a card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this down on my mat. Now, I have not cut this before, so I am not guaranteeing the results. We'll see how it goes. I figured this would be fun to be exciting today, because you never know. Okay, so there's my little stamp. Okay. Now this one, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit the scan button, and I want this to be direct cut, because I want it to cut out of this piece of cardstock that's right on my mat. So I'm going to hit direct cut again, and I want the machine to do the work. And this one's also color, so I think we're going to leave the color mode. Let's see what happens. And I've got another one that might be better. This one might be better with, we'll try that one with the black and white mode. I've got another one up here we'll do with black and white. Okay, so let's hit the start button and start again. And it's going to scan. And it's going to scan my little geranium in. You know, Sandy, these scanning cuts are really fun. I've been using it more and more as I've started to do some paper crafting. And I use it for all kinds of things. I cut fabric with it. I like vinyl. So we're going to cut quite a few things today. I'm just going to cut some stuff so you can kind of see. Okay, so now I know that I just want my geranium cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of crop this down to just right around my geranium. Okay, like that. And I'm going to click OK. And let's see how it looks. So we'll see. Like I said, I have never cut one of these out, so we're going to see how it looks. And it looks like it did a pretty good job. Let's zoom in so I can see a little bit better. And maybe up to 400%. Sometimes you got to go way up in order to see. And I can move around the screen with these two buttons here. It lets me move around so I can see the whole thing. So I'm just going to move this over. And I can see the black line. And you know, give me a second here. I'm going to put my glasses on because it's really small. I want to see how this looks. This looks pretty good around the geranium. Looks quite good around the geranium. So I think I'm happy with that. I'm not going to touch either one of these two items. I might check the smoothing though, because it looked a little bit jiggity jaggedy along the edges. So let's maybe bump the smoothing up a little bit, and we'll preview it. And we can do the same thing. We can zoom in to 400%, and then we can look a little bit closer at the geranium and see if that looks a little bit better. That it does, because it kind of smoothed off the edges up here. Everything was a little bit angular, so I thought it looks a little bit better now. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. So we'll leave it on middle, and I'm going to click OK. And OK one more time. But now of course, we want to tell it what we're going to do. So I want it to be around my geranium, okay? And I want it to be just a little bit away. So we're going to go to the outline distance. And this is in inches. So let's say, you know, that we decide we want it to be at 1/4 of an inch. You know, we could do 1/4 of an inch away, and that would be like a seam allowance, you know. So I want mine just to be at the very minimum that I can get it. I'm just going to go up one bump, which is 0.04 inches. So it's very small, but it's just a little white will show around the edge of my geranium. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to click OK one more time. And there's the geranium. Okay, it's right here. And I'm not moving anything on my mat. And I'm going to say, please select, cut. And then I'm going to start. Let's see what happens here. Like I said, I've never cut this out. I colored this a while ago and I haven't cut it out. So we'll see how this goes. And then what I'll do with these is I will add these to the fronts of cards. I love the peony. The peonies are my favorite. My mother really loved flowers, and one of the things she loved, we had these huge peony bushes in the yard. Okay, so there is my little geranium, and it cut it. So let's see how this looks. Oh my gosh, look at there. Looks pretty good. So what do you think? Now, the one thing I might have done with this, and I might actually try it, I'm not sure. I could have done with the other option that we have, the scan to cut data. There's a way, and I'm going to do that here in a minute, but the scan to cut data function would have allowed me also to cut out this little bit inside here. I could have cut out these little bits inside, but when I put this on my card, I think it's going to give it a little bit more body if I have that little bit in there so that it won't fall apart. So there's my little piece that I'm going to put on my card. Isn't that cute with the little geraniums? Okay, and you could have cut this out in the inside, but I'll do that with something else here in a minute. Okay, so that's scan to cut data. Let's try one more. How about the butterfly? I love these butterflies. So let's do a butterfly. Do the same thing with this one. So this is going to be another one that's stamped. And actually, you know what? I want to do a black and white one. Let's try this one instead. So this is one that I actually had a little, those little dies for. So like here would have been the die that would have gone around here that you'd have to have a die cutting machine also to use this. So it would go around there like that. And then this one had the little pumpkin. Okay. So, and I have a die cutting machine that I use, but this is going to take the place of this die cutting machine. Okay. So this one's black and white. So let's cut out the little spider web. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go up here, but this one we're going to use the black and white mode because that is just black and white. Hit the little house to go back to home. Got to watch the time so we know what time it is. Okay, so again, I'm going to do direct cut because I want to cut out of this piece of paper. And I'm going to hit my little machine. And then I want to go into, I'm going to hit the little wrench. And I want to go to the black and white mode because this is a black and white item. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to hit start. And then we're going to scan. So I just hit start and it's going to scan. So here it's scanning. Yeah, these are really fun and easy to use. And I use them for so many things. So we're going to cut some fabric here in a minute. And we're also going to cut some vinyl. So I'm going to cut some vinyl for you today too with the other function. All right, so there is the scan now up on the screen. So we're going to just cut out the little spider web. So let's go hit OK. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it too well, but there's a nice black line around both of these. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to crop out. I just wanted to do the spider web. And sometimes I can just use the black and white mode for most everything. If there's a black outline, for the most part, the black and white mode works fairly well. Okay. So let's go ahead and zoom in here a little bit so we can see. And probably a little bit bigger than 200%. I can never see. So I'm going to move this over. And it looks like it did pretty well with that. Can't really see it too well. I think it went around the little, yeah, it went around the little spokes on the spider web there too. So I think that looks pretty good because that's what the die would have done. So you can see here's the die. So you can see where the little spokes were of the spider web. Okay. But again, now this one I do occasionally with black and white have to move. This is kind of, it's like the sensitivity of the darkness. And so sometimes I have to move this function a little bit. Like if I'm not getting a real good scan, I might move this up so that it's a little bit darker. And then again, that ignore object size is something else that sometimes I need to use. If I have like some little funny little thing on the side or something, I can ignore parts, little bits of it. Okay. Again, here's my smoothing. So I think I am going to smooth it a little bit more so that things around the edges are maybe a little smoother and they're not so angular. So I'm going to preview that. And normally I use the medium function. So I think that'll be good. Yeah, I think that'll be good. And then I'm going to hit OK again. And I'm going to hit OK one more time. And then, of course, we're going to cut. So we have to choose how far away we want the outline to be. And what it defaults at is like right on top of the line. So to me, that's a little too close. I'd like to have just a little white around it. So I'm just going to hit that one time again, click OK. And then I'm going to click OK again. We're going to please select, and we're going to cut. And there's my little spider web right there. And I haven't moved my paper. So we're going to hit cut. I don't need to test cut. And I'm going to hit start. And let's see what happens here. So here it's going. I'm not going to cut out the pumpkin right now. Now these I think I did with markers. I have some new markers I'm learning how to use. So I did these with markers. And those were fun. This was a little Halloween set I just got. Thought I might make some Halloween cards. So the direct cut feature is something that you can use for a lot of different things, but I know that people that stamp and that kind of stuff will use this quite a bit because you don't have to buy the dies then. So here is the little spider web. And if I would have cut it out with the die, it would have been very similar looking to this actually. I mean, it looks like it's very similar to it. And I left just a little bit of a edge, and in fact I think the die might have left just a little bit more of an edge around it, so I think that's really cool. So see, then I can put that little spider web on my card. Okay, so this is a very fun, easy process to do if you have things you just want to cut around and have them be a little standalone item. And it can also be done in fabric. Okay, so I have some fabric here that I wanted to show you. So I have this little fox on this piece of fabric, okay? And I wanted just to cut out the little fox. So I cut him out earlier just to test him to see how he went. And he worked out really well, okay? But I found out by doing this one that I chose about a 3 millimeter outline around the outside edge. But then I got to the end and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I can't save it because I wanted to save this so that I could bring the little FCM file, which is what this makes, the cutting file, into my software and make like a little satin stitch. Yes, I could have done that also, Jan, but I'm going to do that with the next thing. I could have shown you how, yes. So yes, you could have, but I'm going to show you how that would work in the next section, okay? So we'll do that in the next section. But I couldn't save this to use that little file because in Direct Cut, I can't save the design. I can save it though in the other side of the machine. So we're going to try the other cutting because then I could use a little bit of, so I'm going to put this on. So let me talk a little bit about, when you're cutting fabric. I'm going to hit scan first. And when I cut fabric, normally I cut fabric face down on the mat, on a sticky, on one of those high-tack adhesive sheets or on the fabric mat. But of course, we need to have the little fox front side up. So what I found that works real well, I normally use a standard mat, okay? And I use, now this is as sticky as a standard mat because I have restuck this mat. This happens to be a low tack. It was just on top. So this is basically a standard mat. And then what I do is when I'm cutting fabric, I want to take the fabric and I put Heat and Bond light on the back because I'm probably going to sew through this. Okay. But when I have to cut these right side up, I take off the paper off the back. And then, you kind of got that shiny Heat and Bond on the back. And then I'm going to stick that down on the mat. So let's just stick this down on the mat right here because that shiny surface sticks to the mat pretty hard. So I normally do not use a fabric mat when I cut right side up. I use a pretty sticky standard mat. And then I use my brayer and I take the paper off the back of the Heat and Bond because if you don't take this off, it's very difficult to get it off of the mat. So I've got this on here. I've got my Heat and Bond on here. And I'm going to use let's try the other option, the scan to cut data. You can use this basically as a direct cut option without, and then it allows you to save the design. And I would like to save my design. But the first thing I want to do, actually, I'm going to go back to home for a second. I want to save, I need to, I digitize in millimeters. So I need to know about how wide I want that little outline to be. So I'm going to go back in here to my scan and cut to the little wrench, and I'm going to go to millimeters just for a little bit. So I can tell how wide my extra outline is going to be. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit scan. And I'm going to scan to cut data this time. So just so you know, guys, I'm punting here. I haven't tried this. I just kind of ran it through my head. Okay. So the scanning area of my Fox is going to be color. So I'm going to change this from black and white to color. Okay. And then I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to hit start and it's going to scan. So we'll hit start twice and it's going to scan our little Fox here. Because I wanted to make a little item that I could maybe put a little satin stitch around it, see. And I thought when I did this with direct cut, and I thought, hey, that looks really great, but I can't save the design to help me with my embroidery part. So we're going to figure out a way we can do this. We'll just do this together. So here's our little Fox. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crop up to the little Fox. Now this one is going to have some little bit of a mess around it because, you know, there's some other stuff on the fabric. So we'll have to fix this a little bit. I'll show you how I'm going to fix it. Okay, and click OK. And let's see what it does. May have to get my glasses out for this one. Okay. So on this case, in this case, I just wanted to trace. That gives me two options. We're going to use the second option here in a minute. But the first option, I just want this to be like an applique. So I want to just trace around the outside edge. So I'm just going to choose the outside edge. Now you notice here that it picked up, I don't know if you can see it too well, but it picked up all that other little stuff. And we can get rid of that in a minute. Okay. And I'm not going to change this. It did a good job of tracing. I might be able to change this, ignore the images. It might get rid of some of these little pieces. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm just going to leave it where it was. And we'll take care of those in a second. I think I am going to smooth it just a little bit so that the Fox is a little bit more smooth. Okay, let's preview it. And when we get it bigger here on the screen, you can see, I think then you'll be able to see these bigger things, these little things down below, because there was a bunch of other stuff, you know, on my fabric. And we don't want those. We just want the little Fox. He's way over here somewhere. Okay, so here's my little Fox. See these little things here? We'll get rid of those. Okay, we can get rid of those because that's stuff we don't want to cut. So I'm going to click OK. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to click OK one more time. Now this side, this is scan to cut data. Look, this one gives me the option of saving it. So now I can save this design. So I'm going to click the little machine and I'm going to save it in the machine. But the one thing I'm going to do, it's going to save it exactly where it's scanned. So it's sort of like direct cut. And if I don't move that piece of fabric, we're good. So I've got it saved in there. So let's go back to the house. So we need to clean it up now so we can use this. So I'm going to go in, retrieve it from the machine. And it's the last one. So I'm just going to hit the bottom and it's all the way at the end. Here he is. So here's our little Fox. Okay. And it's just the outlines. Now we got a bunch of junk in there and we can fix that. So I'm going to go in. And I'm going to hit edit. And let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. How about 400% so we can see? So let's come down a little bit and over. He's over here somewhere. There he is. Okay, so here he is. Okay. Now some of this little stuff, can you see the little red mark right there? That's some of that stuff we don't want. So I can just hit the trash button and it'll move on, and I don't want that. And I'll just keep going through here and I'll just trash the things out of here I don't want, because I just want the little Fox. So here's more little pieces. We'll just keep going. Oops. I think I went out of the zoom. Sorry, guys. Let's go up to the zoom here a little bit. There we go. There's another one. We'll get rid of that one. And this one, there's all these little pieces we don't need, see? And this takes just a minute, but it's easy. There's another piece we don't need because I just want the little fox. Okay, so there's another one of those bigger pieces up there. So we'll get rid of that. So, oh, now we want the fox. We don't want to get rid of him. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to select with one of the selection buttons here some of these other pieces. So we're just going to keep trashing. Okay, oops. We want to keep the fox. Keep trashing those little bits. There's another one. Just hitting the trash can. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. And get rid of that one. Okay, so now we just got our little fox. That's the part we wanted. Okay, now what I wanted is I wanted a little outline around here because, you know, if I want to make a little satin stitch maybe, I don't want it. I want to have a little fabric like along, so it's not going to satin stitch like right into his little, the color of the little fox. So what I'm going to do then is this little design right here. I am going to object edit. So I figured this out in my head the other night. I was supposed to be sleeping, but that's sometimes what my head does. And I want this to be a little outline. So remember the scan to cut data that we did? And remember, I have not moved this. This is exactly where it was earlier, okay? And it saves exactly where it scans. So I'm going to click this button, and that was the distance button, okay? So I would like the distance to be about 3 millimeters, because I usually, when I digitize things, I like to leave about a 3 millimeter satin stitch around the outside edge. So I'm going to make the offset 3 millimeters, and I'm going to click OK. Now we've got two things in here. Okay, we've got the little piece and we've got the outline. Well, the outline is actually my cutting line. So now I'm going to delete the fox, the original fox, and I'm going to hit delete. Okay, so now we just got the outline around the outside edge. That's what I want to actually cut out. And it's going to cut perfectly because I haven't moved this. So I left it exactly where it was. And we can even scan just to verify that. So I'm going to hit the scan button and let's just scan it up here. So this is sort of like direct cut with more options because it allows you to save. And when you do direct cut, you can't save the design. So this is kind of a cool little technique that if you wanted to make this into an embroidery design. Okay, so now if you look close, let's see if I can zoom in so you can see it. Let's see if you can see this here in a second. Get a little bit bigger. Whoops, where'd he go? Sorry, I missed him, I think. I got to go this way. Where'd he go? Here he is. Okay, so see, can you see where the little outline is around the fox? Okay, and I didn't move this. I just left it right there. So now what I'm going to do is we can cut this out and we're going to have that same little outline I got with direct cut. And now I'm going to have this little file that I can put into my embroidery software later and make a little satin stitch for it. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to hit save to my machine. And I want to overwrite this because I don't need the original little design. I needed the design that was an outline. So I'm going to hit overwrite in this case. So now when I go back to him, I've got another one that I could scan. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. And I didn't move him. So this is sort of like direct cut in that I didn't move the design off the mat. And I know it's going to scan just perfectly and then cut. All right, so we're going to hit OK. And I'm going to see, please select, and we're going to cut. And I'm going to make sure he's well adhered here. and hit cut. And I think everything should be set. It is, and I'm going to hit start. So let's see how we do here. Oops, a second here. I'm going to pause this for a second. I want to change my blade. Quit cutting for a second. I want to change my blade. You know, when I do fabric, I have a regular auto blade set just for fabric. So I only use this to cut fabric. So sometimes your regular one, if you've been cutting paper with it and all that, it may not work very well for fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my fabric blade in. It's the same blade, but I only use it for fabric. Okay, so now we can go back and cut. It'll probably cut better. So hit cut and then start. So let's see how we do. So what my goal was with this was to make this one that I did with scan to cut data look like this one, okay, that I did with direct cut, but then I couldn't save it. And I was like, oh, I can't save it. And I had never, I guess I've used direct cut a lot and I've never saved anything, but this time I want to, because when I pull this up, here's my little piece of fabric that's cut out with my little fox. And this was just a little fat quarter bundle I had that had these little animals on it. Look, so now there's my little fox. And he has a little edge around him so that if I want to go ahead and make a little embroidery design, that design that I saved in my machine, let's go back up here and go back. This little design that I saved in my machine, right here, that's the little design we just cut. And he will now save that design is an FCM, or in other words, the cutting file for my scan and cut. I can take that file and save it back. So if I hit OK, see, I can save again. I can save it onto a USB stick, and I can take it to my embroidery software, and I can make a little satin stitch for this, and it will be the perfect outline for this. Okay, so I just thought that was a really cool little technique to do, and I got the same results. One was done with scan to cut data, which is what we just did, and one was done with direct cut. But with the direct cut one, I couldn't have the little file to make my embroidery design later. So I just thought that was cute. I thought they were darling little designs, and you could make little applique patches out of them. Okay. So that's just a little technique I wanted to show you. I thought about that the other night, and I was trying to figure out how to make it work. All right, so there's my little foxes. Is that cool? Okay. So direct cut, like I said, was used for my paper stamps. I just wanted to cut them out so I could put these on my cards. Okay. This was done with scan to cut data because I can save the design and then I can use it later. Well, let's look at more about scan to cut data. So this is normally what I use scan to cut data for. Is I want to scan an item. Let's say I have a picture, and we're going to do a picture here. And if you want to scan something, a second here, I got to get rid of a couple things. Or let's say you have a pattern for a traditional quilted applique, and you want to trace it so that you can cut out your applique patterns. So I have this scan and cut logo. Okay, and I've done this many times. So some of you that have taken classes over the years, I've used this logo lots of times, and this is the scan and cut logo. So I'm going to use this. This is a scanning mat. So I normally use a scanning mat, especially if I have a nice piece of like a pattern piece that I'm using, that I don't want to damage it with the sticky surface on the mats. So if you don't have a scanning mat, I'd recommend you buy one because they are handy. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the scanning mat in. Okay, I'm going to lose my little foxes. I'm going to have to make my little design and show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so I want to scan this, but I want it to be a design that I'm going to use to cut something else out with. Okay, so what I'm going to use, again, what we just used was scan to cut data. So I'm going to go ahead to scan to cut data. And this is going to allow me to save. Now, this particular item is only 2 colors. Even though it's color, I think I'm going to go to black and white mode because that seems to do a pretty good job. And I'm just going to do the black and white mode and hit start. And hit start one more time. And we're going to scan. And we're going to scan this picture here. I have all kinds of stuff all over my desk here. So all right. But I was trying to figure out some ways that I could use my scan and cut with my embroidery software and then maybe still just use printed fabrics because I have all these cute fabrics with prints on them. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be fun to cut those out and then make appliques out of them? Okay, so here is scan and cut logo. I can now trace this with different options. So the first option, again, is what we used for this. Remember, we just wanted to trace around the outside edge. But this one has stuff inside and, inside and outside. So it has like the inside of the A and this N in here. So I need to trace inside and outside. So that is actually the second option. The third option here is it scans and adds extra lines where the lines intersect. So that is not one that I have ever used, and I'm trying to come up with a good application for that. So I normally use one of these 2 first ones. Okay, so we're going to use the second one this time. And I want to scan inside and outside. And I'm going to go ahead and crop down to my scan and cut logo. I need to look at my note to see how big I made this. So just a second here. Okay. And again, this would allow me, if I didn't think I got a good enough trace, I might need to darken it a little bit. And I think it was pretty good. It looks pretty good on the screen. Again, if I have some little blip up here, if I want to ignore it, I could use that to change. I hardly ever use that function. Now this one, the smoothing function says low. On this particular item, it looks good, and I've always scanned it at the default. So this particular one, I'm not going to change that. I started changing the smoothing when I started cutting out my stamps because I thought that some of the stamped images looked too angular and they needed to be a little more smooth on the edge. So this one, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to save this in my machine. So let's just save it in the machine. And then we're going to take this out. Now we're not going to cut. Whoops, sorry, it has to save first before it lets me eject. There we go. So I'm going to take this out. Now we are not going to cut, obviously, on this mat. This is a scanning mat. So I'm going to take this one out. And I'm going to use my restuck low-tack mat, which is actually a standard mat now. I'm going to go ahead and put this in. And now we're going to retrieve that design that we just saved to our machine. And what we're going to cut out with this is I'm going to make a sticker or a vinyl piece. So these are what I made with this little, here's the little scan and cut. And what I did is I have made these little stickers to put on my, my toolbox for my scan and cut. And so I just made the little logo, and we've done this in some of the classes that I've taught over the last few years. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a vinyl sticker. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this some vinyl. Let's see. I think I'm going to use this dark one. I like this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put this on the mat, right side up. Okay, and there's paper on the back. Now with vinyl, we only want to cut through the vinyl. We don't want to cut through the paper on the back, okay? So there's a couple ways to do this. You can use the half cut feature, which works fine on this machine. However, I've always felt that when I went to weed it, or in other words, remove the pieces of vinyl that I didn't want, I didn't always feel like it completely cut through, and it made it very difficult to weed. So I learned something about the machine not too long ago that, guess what? Remember those old blades that we had in our old machine? We had to, set them ourselves. Guess what? They still work in this one. And this machine cuts beautifully for vinyl with my old blade. This is my old standard blade. And you can see this one actually was my fabric blade at one time. So now I cut vinyl with it. So this is my old blade that came out of my old original ScanNCut. I've had this probably ever since they came out, probably 10 years. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to set this myself because I know my vinyl cuts very well. So I'm going to screw this all the way in until it's tight. Can you see the blade sticking out on the end? Okay, it's all the way tight. And then I'm going to release this all the way back to 0. So I know that I'm ready to set it where I want it. And I want to set this blade at 2 for my vinyl. And that's normally where I set my vinyl blade, is at 2. So I just wanted to show you that you can still use these blades, and you can use the deep cut blade too, because I use that one also. All right. So I am going to go retrieve that pattern that we just did, and it was in the machine. Go down to ScanNCut. And then there's my design. I'm going to click OK. Now, I do want this to be a little smaller. I got to look at my notes. I think I want, oh, you know what? Got to go back for a second because I got to go back to inches because I can't tell how big things are in inches. So let's go back to inches. I hit the little wrench, go back to inches. Okay, now we can get our design. Go back down to the bottom. Here it is. Now I think I made it. I have to turn my notes over. 6 inches. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to edit it. And right now, it's all in little bits. Okay. So I want to be able to bring the whole thing down together. So I'm going to go ahead and select with the little red boxes. Select all. So it's going to get all of them selected together. Click OK. And then I can object edit and I can group. So now it's one piece. So I know that it's going to be in one piece when I go to work with this. And I am going to now size it. This is the sizing button here in Object Edit. I'm going to size it down so that it's 6 inches wide. So we'll bring it down to the width of 6 inches. Okay. Oops, a second here. All right, there we go, 6 inches. So it's not very tall. So we'll click that. And I know this is the size we used on the top of our toolboxes. So, all right, so here's my design and the size I want it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scan. So I need to scan to know where my fabric is. What do you use yours mostly for? Sandy, I cut a fair amount of fabric with it, but I do a lot of crafting with it. I like to cut vinyl. I like to cut heat transfer vinyl to put on t-shirts. I like to cut out my stamps. I do cut a fair amount of applique fabrics out. So I use it for a little bit of everything. I've done a lot of rhinestoning. I like to make rhinestone templates. So there's lots and lots of different things to use this machine for. I mean, you can just, it's really unlimited. Okay, so here is our vinyl, and here's my design down here. So I'm going to move it up here so I don't waste all my vinyl. Okay, and then I'm going to click OK. And now this one, again, I have my manual blade. This is the old manual blade, and I have set it to 2. So I'm going to tell it to cut. Now I'm going to go in here and check. Right now, it says that my manual pressure is at 0, and that is where I want my manual pressure. And if you have like a CM650W, that's where you would also want your pressure and your blade at 2. I'm going to leave my pressure at 0. The speed at 3 is good. Takes about 1 minute to cut out. So if you want to, you can do a test cut. I'm pretty sure this is going to cut okay. So we're just going to go for it. I'm going to hit cut. I've cut this out a million times and with the same blade setting, and I'm pretty sure it's going to cut, but you know, maybe I'll be surprised. And I forgot my weeding tool, so I'm going to show you my weeding tool. I have cut cardstock for cards and window decorations, appliques. There's just so many things you can do with it. This is just some things that I thought would be fun to show you today. And I still have a 230D as well. I don't have the new machine yet. I still have a 230, and I really like my machine. This is the Disney model, which is kind of fun to have a few extra Disney things in it. Yes, so the Silhouette Cameo, we used to have the Silhouette Cameos in stock, Sandy. And the thing with Silhouette, the thing I like about this machine better than most of the other cutters is most other cutters require you to use software all the time. And as you can see, I have not touched any software for this whole hour. So with this one, this is a very, very standalone type machine. Now, if you give me a second, I forgot my scissors. I just need to grab some scissors here so I can cut this out a little bit so it's easier to weed. So I'm just going to show you. I'm going to cut this out so I can see where I need to weed it. And I will do some more stuff with vinyl, but I just wanted to show you, this is what I usually use my Scan to Cut data for, is this kind of thing. The Scan and Cut cuts extremely well. I had a Silhouette camera for many years. I loved it. But I also like software, but I would say that most people get and the thing I like about using my own blade for this is I think the cut is it's completely through my vinyl, and see how easily this comes up. I'm just pulling this off and it just comes right up. And if I use the half cut, I often have to work at it. Now I do have one little letter that's a little bit caught. There we go. I need to shift that over a little bit. There we go. But I usually get a very, very good cut and very easily weeds. And you want that to come off just that simple. Okay, and there's a couple little pieces in here. I'm just using a X-Acto knife to weed with. I forgot my weeding tool. The other thing you can use if you forget your weeding tool is a seam ripper. Works really good. There we go. Take the end out of there. All right. But I just wanted you to see that you can still use those old blades if you have them around. I have the deep cut one too, so I still use it. But there is my little Scan and Cut label to put on my another toolbox. Isn't that cool? So that's a Scan and Cut data. And you notice, like I said, I have not used any software. So a lot of the other cutters require you to use software to run them at all. So with the Scan and Cut, I do so much of it just with the machine. It's a very standalone machine. And if you're not a big fan of software, the Scan and Cut is definitely the one I would tell you to consider, because I think it also cuts really well. The blades are very sturdy. I think everything cuts well. The blades last a long time. So I've had really good, I've really loved my Scan and Cut. I mean, I've had it ever since the original one, and it cuts beautifully. So I've just always enjoyed it very much. And I do a lot of different stuff with it. Okay, so maybe we can get Tim to come back. Is he around somewhere? I'm not sure where he went. We've just been having fun playing with the Scan and Cut this afternoon. So let's see if Tim will come back and talk to you. I'll put the camera up here. I don't know where he went. Maybe he's on the phone. Oh, here he comes. I hear footsteps. You can come back. Just a second here. Let me get you in my phone.
All right. So Tim's going to talk to you for a little bit.
All right, everybody. Again, thanks for joining us. I kind of overheard Jan talking about vinyl, which, like on our shirts here, she does. So
I did that.
Yes, you did this one. So yeah, the Scan Cut is a lot of fun. I wish I had more time to play with it, but I do enjoy it. And, you can always learn something.
You made those cute little flasks.
I did. I made a little flask for maybe not appropriate for our audience, but anyway, I did make it. It was for a 21-year-old birthday, so it was pretty. It was okay. Anyway, again, thanks for joining us. I try to get here when I can. A little reminder. I don't know if I've talked to some of you. We are going to be at the Des Moines Quilt Show. That is in almost 3 weeks, so it's really sneaking up on us. That will be September 14th through the 17th. So if you're in the neighborhood, stop and see us. But yes, we'll be there. Again, like, comment, and share our videos. That always helps us out. I know we're reaching a lot of different people. I had a nice young lady called this afternoon or this morning from about an hour and a half away saying that she's seen us. And so that we always really appreciate that. It always helps get our name out. So do that. And then, maybe we'll do a drawing next week. I've been going through some stuff.
We haven't done that.
No, and I got some stuff I can come up with. So yes, like, comment, and share. We'll put you in your name in for a drawing for next week. And but again, thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your week, great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
bye, everybody.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.